Million Little Things, episode 7, timing. Not gonna lie, I didn't even remember what episode it was until I looked at my phone. Wow. So there's some interesting moments in this episode. It wasn't a fully great episode, but there was some moments in there, that was pretty good. Particularly the Eddie stuff. The Eddie stuff probably was, I would sit there and say my favorite because it was the most raw and emotion in the episode. Except for towards the end, I'll get to that in a second. But pretty much Eddie is still trying to keep his drug habit under wraps. He's playing, he's sitting there coaching Dakota, and he is getting high as a kite. Up until the point where his son, asked him to do some homework. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this math problem was pretty hard, and that's being sober, it was hard. But he was, stumbling, and Dakota came, helped him out. Later on in the episode, Theo, almost forgot his name for a second, wanted to thank Dakota for helping him with his, homework and stuff. And so he goes to reach for something. Now, earlier, Kate couldn't find, some aspirin or whatever, and he switched it around, or he did something, he switched it around or whatever, then he, I don't know what he did, but he did something. And towards the end, Theo knocks down, his medicine, and when his wife is sitting there picking up, when his wife is sitting there picking up, the aspirin and all the medication that fell on the ground, he noticed that there's some stuff, she noticed that there's some stuff that's just, doesn't belong in the bottle. So, while Eddie and Dakota are sitting there, playing, or, he's coaching or whatever, she walks in there, and she is livid. Now, earlier, Kate was like, I don't want her in the house, because she's using, you're not, and I just don't, I don't trust her or whatever. And he's sitting there lying straight to her face. Just literally lying to her face, and I'm like, damn, bro. Damn. So she comes in there and she's like, what's going on? All this medicine and stuff like that. Eddie, I want to know what's going on. There's pills here that's not supposed to be here. She takes the hit. She's like, it's me. I switched it around or whatever. This is my fault. And, then Kate is livid at Dakota. And she's laying into her. And she's like, I want you out my house. Eddie, do you agree? Now, this is the moment of truth. This is the moment where he could have just owned up to it. He could have just, owned up to it. He lied and was like, yep, that's right. I want you out this house, and, I trust you. I vouch for you and everything like that. And I'm just like, wow. I get it. He is worried of losing his wife, on top of him pretty much losing the use of his legs. So I understand the fear, but I'm just like, bro, you are going to get caught sooner or later. And you are just literally burning down everything around you. And, she leaves. Nicole just looks at him. Just like, the look on her face, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, ugh, I'm just so disgusted with you in a way. Part of me is really disgusted at the fact that, she took the hit from him and he just, let it happen. Yep, thanks. And that's what he said to her when Kate left. Thanks. Wow. Okay. And she pretty much walks out. She's like, I hope it was worth it. Now, towards the end of the episode, it shows Eddie attending a virtual meeting. And, everyone's sharing their stories, and they're asking new people. It's like, the moderator, whatever, it's like, hey, is anyone new that wants to share their story? Eddie doesn't say anything. He shuts the laptop, and yep, we just went through another episode of him dodging a bullet that he's probably gonna have to face later on. What else we got? Now we gotta do this kind of a two-part away. So we got Maggie. So we got Maggie and the new guy, and I can't remember what his name is. And then we got Gary. Jesus Christ, Gary and Darcy. It's amazing. I can't remember his name, but I can remember Darcy's name. Anyway, there's a part in this episode where Darcy finds out that Maggie's new boyfriend, and I can't remember his name is, was coming over the house a couple of times. And she got really upset, and she asked Gary, what was that about? Like, how come you didn't tell me that this dude is coming by left and right or whatever? And he tries, it's like he's thinking of something to say, like some sort of lie or some sort of way to avert the truth. And she's like, yo, I'm not dealing with this. At this point, she's about to walk off, and she says something along the lines of, you know, it's one thing to mess with me, but then to mess with my kids or whatever, and to mess with my child. And the reason, we find out the reason why he didn't go, like, to the cabin with them, he just went to drop something off, was because he didn't want to feel like he was a third wheel. Well, he didn't want her son to feel like he was a third wheel. You know, when a divorce happens and your parent winds up seeing somebody new, it's like they're taking time away from their child. And he didn't want to sit there and do that because, well, he had to deal with that. So, she does want to bring over her son, and he's trying to do all this stuff to impress her. Just, I feel like he was just, in a lot of ways, trying way too hard, but, like, he was just trying. And it wasn't working, and nothing was working, and finally they bonded over the fact that they were really worried about COVID. You know, even the fact that he was coming to meet his mom's new boyfriend, you know, was just a risk. You know, it was a risk. And it was just something he didn't want to sit there and do. So they bonded over the fact that they were, in some sort of ways, I would sit there and say kind of germaphobes, but not really. And of course Darcy does open up later on to the fact of why she keeps having these nightmares. And it has a lot to do with the fact that when she was over at Iraq, she was clearing a building, and she heard a sound. It was a split-second decision, but she wound up shooting a child. And it was something that was haunting her, you know, to this day, and is the reason why she was having the nightmares. And even though it was an accident, this was something that wasn't planned. She was in a foreign country. You know, as a mother, every time she looks at her son, she sits there and thinks of somebody else's child, or somebody else's mother that's not there grieving for a child. So that's why she was having the nightmares. Now, the last bit of it, I felt like it wasn't super interesting. Like, it was interesting, but it wasn't super interesting. Pretty much Regina is, well, she has to make a lot of tough decisions. COVID, you know, she's operating on 50% capacity, and that's assuming the people that are going to come to the restaurant. So she's not making as much money. And she's sitting there thinking about laying off even more staff. And she comes to the conclusion that she's going to want to letting go one of the guys that she's been working with the longest because he makes the most amount of money. So as she's about to sit, you know, as she calls him in, and she's about to sit there and start having this talk, and man, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure this dude knew exactly where it was coming from, because she started off really nice, like, you know, I've been working with you for a while, and, you know, we've known each other, and you know, I really care about you. And I'm like, man, this sounds like a breakup. Not really, because you're about to get fired. But Rome and that new kid that I can't remember what his name is was working on getting the star of Rome's movie to do some advertising for the business. She must be really famous because after her little commercial, whatever that she did, or her little Instagram post that she did, they wound up getting busy as hell. And the guy's name is Albert. I don't... you know, the guy was like, you know, so what is it that you have to sit there and talk to me about in the office? And she tried to cover it up, and he smiled or whatever. I'm like, bro, you knew exactly what that was. Why'd you even ask? Now I'm thinking about this. Why'd you even ask what that conversation was? We all know what that conversation was about. So why even ask? Oh, also, on the other side, I guess I didn't really have to do it in a two-part thing. On the other side, you got Maggie and the other guy. Now, pretty much her whole story is the fact that she had a podcast, she did a podcast or whatever, and she forgot to turn off the mic or turn, you know, in the podcast. So it was still going. It was still going, and this is when a guy found, because they're staying in Gary's apartment, the guy was rummaging through, like, his stuff or whatever, I guess looking for quarters for the laundromat or whatever. He found a ring. And at first, you know, he thought the ring was for Darcy. And Maggie was like, yeah, that ring was for me. So she tells him the whole story about how, you know, he proposed to her, she said no, and just all of it. All that information that got put out there. And pretty much, the conversation made it seem like Gary wasn't over her. Because he still kept the ring. And then she freaked out. Because later on, when that guy, who I still cannot remember his name, was looking at the numbers for her podcast, it shot through the roof. It shot through the roof because she was so personal, you know? It was like her being vulnerable. It just felt like it was somebody wrote it was a conversation that, like, they eavesdropped on a conversation, on a private conversation. And, started scrolling through the comments, and she realized, oh, I didn't turn off the mic. So now a lot of people knew, you know what I'm saying, like all that information about Gary and Darcy and stuff like that, all that information was out there. So now she's freaking out, she decides to delete the podcast. But this guy, the British guy or whatever, is like, the internet's forever, and a bunch of people already had, you know what I'm saying, like they already listened to it. She freaks out, she keeps calling Gary, he's not answering, and long story short, he decides to stay until she gets her screening, and then she can head back to the UK or Oxford or whatever the hell that she came from. But I'm looking for it, and that's pretty much about it. But I'm looking for it is to the next episode. Because the next episode is going to be the fallout when Gary hears that podcast. Because he's going to be pissed. He's going to be pissed. He's going to be pissed at the fact that it's like, you know, you're making it seem like I can't get over you. And then Darcy is already having these, you know, like, just these issues, just these, you know, like she's... And I get where Darcy's coming from, because it's like they're too damn close, you know? The phone calls, all that, the fact that you're letting her stay at your apartment, but it's just too close for comfort. So she doesn't like that already, and looking at that, it's just going to be a lot worse. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But, with that being said, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. See you in the next video.